All right, y'all. Welcome back to Common Sense Buffs. Maybe third time's the charm. I've attempted to go live on this channel 3 times in a row now. I couldn't quite get it to work properly, but now I think I am ready to go. Now, if this is your first time here, what is this channel all about? This is Common Sense Buffs, and we're having common sense conversations about the Colorado Buffaloes football program in the Coach Prime era. And today we have a pretty good one. We have a big game coming up this weekend when the Colorado Buffaloes travel to Tucson, Arizona to take on the Arizona Wildcats. And what many are describing, what I think I would describe as well, as a must-win game. Colorado Buffaloes are 4-2, which is a great place to be after 6 games. And they are going up against the 3-3 Wildcats. But of course, don't let the records fool you. This is college football. You have to show up to play every single Saturday. Records are not necessarily a good indicator of who might be victorious. Colorado is coming off a thrilling and also a heartbreaking loss to Kansas State when they traveled to Folsom Field and pulled off a 31-28 win against the Buffaloes. If you watch that game, if you watch the full game, well, kudos to you because you had to stay up until 1:30 in the morning. Fortunately, this game against Arizona is going to be an afternoon game, and I will be dialed in watching that game. I might live stream it. You guys let me know if that's something that you might be interested in, or I might hop on another channel, maybe like TLP Sports with Harry B. He's always a great host, and I love chopping it up with him. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please hit the like button. If you're at this stage in the video, this might be a channel that might be of interest to you. So if you're so inclined, please subscribe to the channel. All right, let's get to business and the topic at hand. Of course, you guys are welcome to join me in the chat and co-host this with me. I'd love to hear your comments about what I'm talking about the team in general, and about questions you'd like me to weigh in on that are pressing for you. Big shout out to all of those folks who support the channel, who are engaging with the channel, like Yardman. He came through on the last live and had some great commentary. I love engaging with you guys. Big shout out to Giancarlo, who was lit in the chat last night for the live. And then, of course, our new subscriber, Mile High CLE 216. Mile High and CLE, so you must be in Cleveland. You must be a fan of the Buffs. Shout out to the 216 and all our fans out there in the Cleveland area. All right, let's get to business. So, looking at the last game before we look forward to the next game, of course, we need QB1 Shedeur Sanders to have a big game. But that's something that is commonplace for him. So let's talk about maybe the non-statistical things that he needs to change in this particular matchup. So the things that you're always going to have consistency with Shedeur is that he's always going to be well prepared. He's always going to be studied on his opponent, and he's going to be able to find open wide receivers. So that's a given. We also know that he's going to be tough, right? He's going to play hard. He's always going to play to the final whistle. He's never really out of a game. The third thing is that he's never going to get rattled. So whether they're in the lead or they've fallen behind, he's always going to be poised and able to make plays, whether the pressure is on and it feels like the pressure is on, or the pressure feels like it's off. He's always going to be locked in. The one thing I think we all want to see from Shedeur is a game where he is able to get the ball out quicker. That's going to be the one thing that I'm really watching from Shedeur. I know in football, coverage sacks are unavoidable. But I think sometimes it's a little bit more than the coverage, is the tendency for Shedeur to try to always make a play, even when there's an opportunity to throw the ball away and live to play another down. I watched a couple interviews with Prime today, and he says he does have those conversations with Shedeur. He's consistently having those conversations, but there's a communication between Shedeur, Coach Prime, and Pat Shurmur where, yes, he's willing to admit those opportunities where he could have played a little bit better or gotten rid of the ball a little bit sooner. but he also looks at film. And sometimes when they go back and look at the film, the circumstances of the play just wouldn't allow him to get rid of the ball, or maybe there might have been a potential for a turnover. So that's one area from QB1 Shador Sanders. I would love to see him uh, 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 demonstrate, right, that he can adopt and make the changes necessary to continue to play well. So that's one area I would love to see from him. The other thing, and this is something that Brett Bartoloni, and I guess we all know if you follow Colorado football, is that Shador changes the play at the line. And one of the things that we saw in the last game was a poor performance in the run game. And I think there were only 10 designed runs in that game. And I think a lot of the blame goes on Pat Shermer from a play calling standpoint. But I don't know if there's always a pass play called um, or a run play called from the sideline, and it might be changed by Shador when he's under center based on what he's seeing on the field. The one thing that the Buffs can't become against Arizona, which they have a tendency to become, is one dimensional. In football, if you become predictable, you're much easier to stop. Now, I'm not saying I can go out there and call the plays better or play better than any of these players on the field. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, as a fan and somebody who's played the game, these are observations that I'm making as the season progresses. I think as soon as the Buffaloes become predictable, just like any team, they are going to struggle. And I would love to see more of the designed runs called from the sideline be followed through. I know he has the high football IQ. I know he's a pro quarterback, but allowing some of these calls based on observations that are happening in the booth, right, where they're seeing what the defense is doing and calling certain plays, should be allowed to move forward. So I want to see a big game from Shador, but with those two adjustments, getting rid of the ball quicker and allowing more of the run plays called from the sideline to be the plays that get executed on the field. The next person I'm very excited about and I'm hoping to see a big game from, because it's going to be absolutely critical, is Isaiah Augustov. The last live that I did a deep dive into him as a player and the impact I think he's going to have on this game. I think Isaiah has the potential to be the first 100-yard rusher for the Colorado Buffaloes this season. Very talented, highly touted out of the state of Florida as a high school football player, 4-star. He was one of the highest ranked players at his position out of the state of Florida when he went to Arkansas. He started in his very last game against Missouri. So that demonstrated that he had earned that opportunity. He played in all 11 games. He started in the final game against Missouri. He's played very well. He had some flashes against CSU. I think the fumble he had, I think it was against Baylor, may have set him back, or maybe it was against CSU. I can't remember exactly, may have set him back. So if you think about that running back room, it's, when the season started, Charlie was the starter. Dallin Hayden was running back too, then Micah Welsh, and then I think Isaiah, and then Brandon Hood. But because of an injury to Micah Welsh, I think he pulled his hamstring, and Dallin hasn't really played as well, and maybe Charlie as well. So Isaiah now, based on some comments that Prime made, is going to get the start in this game. I really want to see this young man ball out, because if Shador could be paired up with an effective run game in Isaiah Augustov, and the O-line can get their confidence up throughout the game by being able to run the ball successfully, I think they're going to be in a great position to be highly successful against the Arizona Wildcats. So we have Shador has to play well. Isaiah Augustov has to play well. And I think there are going to be some new names that get called this Saturday that we haven't heard as much of throughout the season because of injuries in the wide receiver room. Unfortunately, Omarion Miller went down. He is out for the season. As you guys saw in that game against Arizona, let me pull up, against Kansas State. Omarion Miller, when given the opportunity, is an absolute dog out there at wide receiver. And he was playing behind Travis Hunter, obviously one of the best wide receivers in college football, and is going to be one of the best receivers at the pro level. But Omarion Miller in the game against KSU before he went down registered 8 receptions for 145 yards. He was averaging 1 yard per catch. So Travis is back. Jimmy is back. Of course, they have LaJonte and Will Shepherd, but those are names that you know. I want to see big games, and Terrell Timmons is out as well. I want to see Draylon Miller really be used as that um, Omarion Miller replacement. I think he was at a press conference, the after practice press conferences that they have with the players, and one of the things that he said that really stood out to me is that he really styles himself after like a Debo Samuel, right? So a really um, power wide receiver that's able to catch the ball, but also make plays in the runs and yards after the catch. In place of Omarion Miller, I really want to see how well they can utilize Draylon Miller this game in the passing game. I know Shador must be very, very happy to have Travis back. He has Will, who continues to play better each and every game. I think he had 5 catches for 83 yards. He was averaging 16 yards a catch against KSU, and he had a touchdown. Of course, LaJonte Wester, Mr. Open all the time, right? Can't really cover that guy. He had 5 catches for 58 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I think if they could get a better performance from Draylon Miller, they're really going to begin to utilize a very potent weapon that we've seen flashes of, but I think it also have a very big game on the offensive side of the ball. And then last but not least, I like the play of this offensive line. Of course, they're much improved over last year. I think the comparisons of this offensive line to other offensive lines or their potential, it's halfway through the season and we've seen them play well. So they have the ability to play well. I think if, like I said at the outset, Shador can stick with some of those run plays that are being called from the sideline or called from the booth and allow those offensive linemen to get some confidence by opening holes in the run game like they did against UCF. At the end of that UCF game, you could see the confidence that that offensive line had. And it wasn't because they were world beaters in the running game. It was primarily because they had success when they needed it. And those running backs were able to get first downs consistently and also run the ball for touchdowns. So, guys, thank you so much for sticking in there with me on this live session. Please go ahead and hit me in the chat. Are you vibing with what I'm saying? You agree or disagree? Do you have any questions, concerns about what the Colorado Buffaloes are going to show on Saturday against the Arizona Wildcats? All right. So that's where I really want to see them play well. Now, this is a unit play, not really a player play. But if I had to pick a player that I want to see play well, I really want to see them being able to run the ball behind Jordan Seaton more effectively. By far, he is the best and most consistent offensive lineman they have, even as a freshman. I think there's opportunities to run behind him and continue to build his confidence. His upside continues to be very high. He seems to be a young man who has his head on his shoulders. He's staying disciplined. He's putting in the work, and he's going to continue to get better. So if I had to pick one person on that unit I really want to see ball out this game, it would be Jordan Seaton. He's been doing that all season. I think he could do that again against Arizona. Now let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. And the first name I have to call is Shiloh Sanders needs to have a bounce back game. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever played a sport, but there's nobody immune from having a bad game. And it's easy as fans because we're just watching. We're on our living room couch. We're eating Cheetos or whatever we're doing, and we're not having to play the game. But to be out injured, I think he missed 2 or 3 games, to come back and get back into the rhythm of a football game and then have a poor performance, that could be devastating for a player if you allow that to get to you. But I don't think Shiloh's that kind of player. Coach Prime, in some of his interviews talked about not only the fact that he didn't have a great game, but the fact that immediately after the game, he pulled him to the side and they had a conversation, making sure that his head was screwed on right, and that he's going to come out and play better. Shiloh Sanders was a staple in that last season on the defense, right? Of course, because he always goes for the big hit, he has a tendency to miss tackles. That's the thing about being a home run hitter or a big hitter like that. If you don't know how to rightly choose your moments to go for the big hit because it's clearly a play that you could make versus always trying to make the big hit, you're going to struggle. So hopefully he's watching film. He's going to make the adjustments, and he's going to come out and have a great game. I'd love to see him create a turnover in this game, whether that be by causing a fumble or breaking up a pass, or maybe even getting a pass, intercepting a pass. The other DB that I want to see have a good game, and I think is finally probably primed for this, is DJ McKinney. Now, what I've loved about DJ McKinney's game is that he's a sure tackler. And they've needed him to be a sure tackler, especially when players have broken big runs against this defense. And I trust DJ McKinney to make the tackle. What I would love to see him be is turnover hungry. He is, I think, at this point, maybe Carter Stoutmeyer, maybe Shiloh, but we know Travis has gotten a pick. We know Preston Howes just gotten a pick. Colton Hood just got his first pick of the season against KSU. I really want DJ McKinney to be turnover hungry in this game and create a turnover for himself. If DJ McKinney is playing well, whether they have Travis following McMillan across the field or whether or not when McMillan switches the field, DJ is going to pick him up. I think DJ right now has to be thinking and desiring for his first turnover of the season. So I got Shiloh needs to play well. I got DJ needs to play well. And we need great play from the law firm of Hill, Green, and Bentley. I think watching film, one of the vulnerabilities on Bentley is his ability to cover in space. So teams getting wheel routes with running backs coming out of the backfield, they're going to try to see if he's able to make the adjustment. Hill Green had a great game. I think he registered again 9 tackles, including one that was assisted. DJ McKinney had 8 tackles. Cam Silman Craig had 6. Shiloh had 6. But I really think that combination of linebackers and them getting back to their playing form before they played KSU is going to be absolutely necessary. And then last but not least, BJ Green needs to continue to have a big game. He was interviewed on the Romy Beam show. I think it's called the Coach Prime show, maybe. And he talked about the fact that Sapp and D. Lou has been preparing him for the dam to break, meaning that sacks usually come in waves. And he hadn't really been getting sacks, but he's been playing well and playing better consistently game over game. And what he demonstrated against KSU is that he's a multiple sack per game kind of player. And I think if BJ Green can get to, I can't think of the quarterback's name for Arizona, Fajita. Hey, forgive me, brother, if I pronounced your name incorrectly, but I think if he can get to that quarterback and they can keep that quarterback rattled, that defensive front is going to force him to do something that he has a tendency to do, which is to try to make a play and force passes when there's obviously coverage available. And I think that's where that forcing the ball into the tight window tendency that Arizona quarterback has is going to be the opportunities that both Shiloh, DJ, Colton, Travis are going to need, and Cam, of course, to make that play. So those are just my key takeaways of the players that I'd love to see play great this weekend. I'd love to hear from you guys. Who do you think needs to play great in the comments? Let me know your thoughts. Please hit that subscribe. Please hit that like. And until next time, go Buffs.